The afternoon light at Lake Garda cast a soft golden hue across the still waters. The last winds of summer gently rustled the white bougainvillea draping over the gates of Villa Doria, a place buzzing with preparations for one of the year's most anticipated weddings, the union of tech billionaire Cade Rowan and a woman. No one here truly knew, beneath the shadow of a stone archway, where Bentley limousines lined up neatly and black-suited bodyguards with earpieces stood watch. An old Peugeot taxi pulled up quietly. No one noticed. No one stopped, until the car door opened and a woman stepped out. She wore a cream linen dress, softly fitted but unadorned. No high heels, no diamonds, just worn leather flats, and a simple braid draped over one shoulder, a hairstyle more likely to be overlooked than admired. Her name was Amelia Gray, 29 years old, a regular woman entering an extraordinary place. In her hand, she held a white invitation card, the corners slightly bent, but the gold-lettered line remained intact. Ceremony of love, Cade Rowan, and point. The other name was hidden beneath her fingers. She walked through the unfamiliar gazes, neither rushing nor retreating, but the difference between her and the world around her was so stark it stung. In a place where every step seemed paved with fame and fortune, Amelia moved like a silent note in a symphony of excess. She approached the VIP entrance. Standing in her way was Dario, a tall man with a granite cold face, dressed in a black suit and earpiece. His eyes scanned Amelia's dress, then stopped at her old shoes. He didn't bother asking her name. "Staff don't enter this way," he said in clipped Italian, laced with disdain. Amelia didn't flinch. She offered a quiet smile, her blue eyes calm as still water. "I'm not staff, I'm a guest," she replied, her voice low and steady like the deep strings of a cello. "Amelia Gray." She handed him the card. Dario frowned. He turned it over and inspected it, as though searching for forgery. He didn't respond, only stepped back slightly and touched his earpiece. "Wait here," he muttered. Amelia stood still, in the middle of the grand courtyard, like a calm center in a whirlwind of chaos. From a distance, luxury cars continued to arrive. Guests stepped out dressed in glittering gowns, Louboutin heels, and Hermes clutches. They drifted past her as if she were invisible. Then, 3 women paused, one in an emerald sequin dress, another in sapphire silk, and the last in a dazzling golden gown that shimmered like molten metal. The one in gold was Sabrina Holt, a famed investor with a tongue like a blade and over 3 million social media followers. She looked Amelia up and down and let out a laugh, unapologetically mocking. "Is she lost? Or here for the bride's tip jar?" Sabrina said loudly enough for the entire courtyard to hear. Amelia turned to her, still wearing that gentle smile, soft, but her gaze cut through the other woman's makeup and jewelry like glass. "If you have something to ask, you can ask me directly." A beat of silence. Sabrina blinked, slightly caught off guard. Then she scoffed. "Oh, I don't speak to backstage staff." From afar, Dario was still speaking into his earpiece, his expression unreadable. Amelia stood quietly, her linen dress swaying ever so slightly with the breeze, fragile yet unwavering. She didn't belong to this world, and yet something about her presence refused to be dismissed by it. Nobody knew who she was, and that, precisely, was why they were about to pay for their assumptions. Rolls-Royces and Maybachs glided past the villa gates like a parade of privilege. Every passenger stepping out was a living emblem of a world Amelia had never aspired to be part of. Yet today, she found herself right in the center of. As she waited, another cluster of VIP guests arrived. Elise Fontaine, daughter of a French media mogul, stepped out in a blazing red Givenchy gown. Beside her was Ria Mahajan, Asia's top influencer, holding up her live stream camera, which was already rolling. They paused when they saw Amelia. That moment, silent and fleeting, was like noticing a dark ink blot on a white bedsheet in a 5-star hotel. No one spoke at first until Ria broke the hush. Perfect angle. A mysterious lady crashes a billionaire's wedding. Better than a movie. She raised her camera. Elise sneered, her voice sharp as shattering crystal. She's not mysterious, she's misplaced. Then came a young man in a velvet black tuxedo, Ethan Caldwell, co-founder of a tech startup valued in the hundreds of millions. Holding a champagne flute, he approached with an amused smirk. She looks like she came from a dollar store costume party. Guess we've got tonight's entertainment? Amelia stood motionless, unbothered. Not a flicker of shame or defense crossed her face. Their words, barbed and cruel, washed over her like rain over stone. At that moment, Dario returned, this time with Lucia beside him. She was a senior security manager, sharp-eyed, holding a tablet and the guest list. Lucia glanced at Amelia, then down at her dress. "Name?" she asked. "Amelia Gray," Amelia answered. Lucia scanned the guest list, nodded slightly, then looked up, her tone icy. "You do realize this is the VIP entrance, right?" "I was invited," Amelia replied, calm as ever. "And your invitation?" He took it. She nodded toward Dario. Lucia smirked. "Strange. Someone like you, with an invitation? Doesn't quite look the part." She didn't finish the sentence, but her eyes said the rest. Ria, still live streaming, whispered into her mic like a war zone reporter. "Live from the Cade Rowan wedding, where a mystery girl is causing major confusion at the main courtyard." The comment feed exploded. "Someone get her out of there. Is she pretending to be the bride? Cringe? Homeless chic? Who let this happen?" Nearby, Cassandra Lyle, a well-known investor, whispered to her husband, "I can't decide what's sadder, her or her confidence." "Maybe the shoes," he chuckled. Still, Amelia said nothing. Her silence, that, above all, was what disturbed them the most. They wanted a breakdown, a meltdown, a scene, but all they got was a woman standing still, not explaining, not apologizing, not leaving. Lucia suddenly yanked her tablet, voice sharp. "You're disrupting security. Leave the premises." "I'm simply standing," Amelia replied gently. "And I'm simply doing my job." "Dario, escort her out." No one questioned it. No one stepped forward. A crowd began to form like vultures circling prey, not yet fallen. Cameras clicked. Whispers grew louder, and from those who knew something was wrong, only silence. Amelia turned her head. Her gaze swept over Elise, Ria, Ethan, and Cassandra, not with hatred, just a look as though she saw them clearly, in a different world, one where wealth held no weight and appearance couldn't buy dignity. Then she spoke a sentence that would soon echo far beyond this marble courtyard. "It's all right. If you believe I don't belong here, I'll let you prove it." A wave of phones lifted. Cameras flashed. Laughter rose like fireworks. Dario and Lucia seized her arms and began leading her toward the main gate, the barrier between opulence and reality. She didn't resist. She walked like someone used to being misunderstood. From behind, Elise shouted with mockery, "Check her purse." "Maybe her invite's written in crayon." Laughter erupted. By the gate stood Derek Vaughn, a crypto tycoon already tipsy. He grabbed a handful of cocktail olives from the buffet and hurled them toward Amelia. "Dinner for the lost princess," he roared, laughing madly. One olive struck her cheek. A smear of oil stained the linen. An unspoken humiliation. She walked past the white flowered archway, the very place she was meant to stand with the groom. Each step was a quiet wound. Someone in a Chanel dress hissed, "She's ruining the wedding. Looks like she's here for a job interview." A live streamer added a caption, #CrashingCadeWedding. "Watch her get dragged out." Comments poured in like a waterfall. "Throw her out already. Delusional Cinderella. Where did she get the nerve?" But Amelia did not crumble. She didn't beg, didn't cry, didn't look back. She walked shoulders square, chin high, as if she were walking down an aisle, not through a gauntlet of shame. The pebbles beneath her feet crunched softly beneath her worn soles. A tiny sound, but louder than the noise around her. Just a few steps from the gate, Elise's live stream peaked over 20,000 viewers. She zoomed in on the olive stain and said with a cruel finality, "So her name's Amelia Gray? Just a nobody. Thought she could reach Cade Rowan. But she's no one in our world." She chuckled. like pouring acid. Bet tonight she'll be in a motel wondering why she wasn't invited. Ethan Caldwell bellowed. Maybe she's here husband hunting, in case Cade calls off the wedding. That's when a voice cut through it all. Deep, clear, and carrying something ancient and powerful. Not a shout, not anger, just truth. Let go of my wife. The entire villa froze. The background string quartet fell silent, as if someone had cut their strings. Cameras, once lifted gleefully, halted mid-air. Phones stopped recording. From the highest stone step of the courtyard, under the final golden rays piercing through the bougainville arch, Cade Rowan stood. No bodyguards, no grand entrance, just his presence and eyes sharp enough to make an entire room stumble back. Let go of my wife. He didn't need to raise his voice. The weight of those words shattered the arrogance and cruelty that had wrapped around Villa Doria all afternoon. Lucia and Dario went rigid. They let go of Amelia, as if realizing they'd been gripping lightning. Amelia stopped walking. She didn't turn around. She only closed her eyes for just a second, absorbing the echo of those words, my wife. From the marble steps beneath the white flower arch, Cade began to walk. The sunlight gleamed against his dark suit. No tie, no name tag, no entourage. And yet, with every step, the courtyard seemed to shift. He didn't glance at the gaping crowd. Each movement was a statement, every stride a silencing of the laughter that had mocked her. When he reached Amelia, he took her hand gently, with both strength and apology wrapped in his grip. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. For her ears only, she nodded, eyes cast downward. "Always, but thank you for coming right when it mattered." Cade drew a breath, then turned to the crowd now paralyzed with disbelief. Seems everyone here is surprised. Silence, near perfect. A glass slipped from someone's hand. It shattered on the marble. No one moved to pick it up. Cade released Amelia's hand and stepped up one level. His voice rang clear without microphone, without theatrics, but it shook the walls. "This is Amelia Gray Rowan, my wife. We were married 7 months ago in a small civil ceremony in Brooklyn, with 2 witnesses and a vow. There was no wedding dress, no red carpet, no media coverage, because none of those things ever defined our love." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the stunned crowd. One by one, faces began to pale. Sabrina Holt shielding her face from camera flashes. Elise Fontaine silently disabling her live stream. Today was supposed to be a simple celebration of that moment, shared among friends. Amelia came early, and she chose to arrive like this, humble, quiet, unannounced, because she wanted to see. If the world I built had the decency to see a person, not a dress, not a shoe, not a bank account. He held out his hand to Amelia. She stepped beside him, and standing there, together no one could deny the truth anymore. I spent a decade building neural core, and I'm proud of that. But everything I have now started when I had nothing except a dream and her, when I slept on couches, when I borrowed money to write code. When I was rejected for funding 12 times, Amelia was the only one who never rejected me. Emotion rippled through the crowd, quiet, but deep. But Cade didn't stop. "You mocked my wife, called her a gold digger, dragged her to the gate like a criminal. When the truth is, she gave up a tenure track position at Stanford to follow me. She never needed fame, never asked for power. And today she only came to see who among you deserved to be here." The silence shifted from stunned to ashamed. A few looked down. Others averted their eyes. Sabrina trembled. Elise flushed. Rhea pretended to check her phone. Cade gave a small nod, like the judgment had been delivered. Then he turned to Amelia. "We could leave, but I think they should." A hush fell so heavy it bent the air. People didn't just understand what was happening, they felt it. Cade turned toward a woman near the gate, Mia Tanaka, his senior coordinator. She held a glowing tablet, seemingly ready for this moment. "Mia," Cade said, voice steady. "Begin." Mia stepped forward, calm as a lake. Her voice rang like polished steel. "Permist, Rowan's directive, We have retrieved all security footage from the past 45 minutes, including fixed cameras, staff devices, public live streams, and courtyard recordings. Here is the list of individuals who insulted, humiliated, or illegally recorded Mrs. Amelia Rowan, causing serious harm to her dignity and the event's integrity. A wave of panic crept across the guests. Someone gripped their purse. Another began quietly deleting videos. Too late. Mia looked down at her screen and read with cool precision. Sabrina Holt live-streamed offensive content, publicly ridiculed the guest of honor, incited the crowd. Elise Fontaine deliberately disseminated sensitive images and encouraged public shaming. Ria Mahajan illegally recorded and spread content on personal platforms, launched the trending hashtag #CrashingCadeWedding. Ethan Caldwell threw objects at a guest, used language that degraded human dignity. Cade turned to the security team, escort them out. No further explanation required. Two guards moved toward Sabrina first. She backed away, face ghost pale, the wine glass trembling in her grip. "You're making a mistake. I'm Cade's investment partner. This has consequences," she shrieked, eyes wide in disbelief. No one responded. A guard politely pointed to the gate. Her glittering gown swept the marble like a fallen flag. Elise tried to maintain composure, but when the guard approached, she blurted out, "I only live-streamed because I didn't know she was his wife. I thought she was staff." Mia looked up, emotionless. "Which is exactly why you deserve to leave." Elise was led away under the cold stares of those who had laughed with her minutes ago. Her stream had already been remotely terminated. Her phone now displayed, "Account disabled due to violation." Ria Mahajan attempted to sneak toward the garden, but a guard spotted her. She forced a weak smile. "I only recorded a little. I didn't say anything, but the security footage said otherwise." One of the guards stated firmly, "You live-streamed saying, 'Who is this?' Some random girl begging for a flower arch pic, and hashtagged it," Mia added smoothly. "And now, you're the hashtag," Mahajan mocked. "Thousands are calling for boycotts." Ethan Caldwell was the last. He tried to joke like any man used to living off charm and champagne. "Come on. It was just a little fun? I'm still a top investor, right?" Cade didn't reply. A single look silenced him. Ethan dropped his head, walking off like a scolded schoolboy. Justice fell in silence. No need for rage. No need for shouting. Truth had done its job. Cade stepped closer to his wife and gently touched her shoulder. "I won't let them do that to you again." Amelia looked at him. In her eyes, there was no rage, no resentment, only the soft, quiet light of someone who had seen the worst of the world, yet still chose to believe in something better. The atmosphere inside Villadoria had shifted. The artificial glitter, the forced glamour, all of it now seemed like a washed-out painting after a sudden rain. What remained was raw and honest people, stripped of ego, face to face with the consequence of their silence. Those who had laughed, those who had filmed, those who had said nothing, now stood still, not daring to meet Amelia's eyes. Cade turned to her once more, his hand resting lightly against the small of her back. "You don't need to prove anything, but if you want, this can still be our day." She looked at him. There was no smugness, no triumph in her expression, only deep gratitude. Gratitude that love had shown up in the right way, at the right time. "I don't need to be seen in a wedding dress," she whispered. "But if you'll be there, I want to keep walking." At the far end of the hallway, a carved wooden door opened. A young woman in a wedding logistics uniform appeared, nodding softly to Amelia. She understood. She had been prepared for this moment. Amelia quietly stepped away from the courtyard. No spotlights, no applause, just the sound of her own footsteps, moving toward the room where her wedding dress awaited, not to hide her, but to let her light shine. 15 minutes later, when Amelia returned, the entire villa seemed to hold its breath. She didn't descend like a princess. She simply appeared. The gown was made of ivory silk, tailored in the most minimal form, no excessive lace, no exaggerated train, just absolute elegance. No tiara adorned her head. only a small pearl clip to hold back a strand of hair that fell gently over her shoulder. And as the evening sun dipped lower, it kissed her skin like moonlight over silk, but her beauty didn't come from the gown. It came from the way she walked, with her spine straight, her steps calm, her soul free. No one could look away. No one dared raise a phone. Not from fear, but because no one wanted to interrupt the sacredness now present before them. Cade took her hand and led her beneath the floral arch. From the side, a silver-haired Italian priest, Father Lorenzo, stepped forward. "Dio mio," he whispered in his native tongue, his eyes on Amelia as if he were witnessing something divine reborn in human form. He lifted his hand in blessing. The ceremony began. The first voice was Amelia's. She turned to Cade, the man she had trusted, when he had nothing but 2 hands and a dream, and spoke her vow. "I promise to be your place of peace. When the world gets too loud, I promise not only to walk with you through ease, but especially through the breaking. I don't need a perfect life, just you, because wherever you are, that's home." Cade held her hand tightly. His eyes reddened, but his voice stayed steady like the first line of code he wrote, when all he had was belief. "I used to think success was what proved my worth, but I've come to understand that true worth is shown by who stays when there is none. You stayed, and from this day on I promise, wherever I go, you will be with me." The vows echoed into the golden stillness. No one interrupted. No one dared laugh, because for the first time in this extravagant event, they didn't see money. They didn't see status. They saw love and reverence. Amelia, the woman once dragged from the gate, now stood at the center, not because she fought to be seen, not because she reclaimed something, but because the world itself had turned around and stepped toward her. As the soft music played and Cade and Amelia sealed their vows with a kiss beneath the white flower arch, something remarkable happened by the gate. A silent exodus. Sabrina Holt, once the queen of media investments, was now surrounded by paparazzi lenses. The media ban had been lifted by the event staff. "What do you say about insulting Cade Rowan's wife? Do you regret it?" Hashtag Sabrina Shamed is trending globally. Any response? She turned away, her golden gown caught under her heel, tearing at the seam. As she stepped into her car, a reporter called out, "Congrats! You're the first person to lose 10 PR contracts in under 3 hours." Inside another vehicle, Elise Fontaine sat slumped, phone in hand, receiving alert after alert. Account locked, sponsorships terminated, partnerships withdrawn. Online, a split-screen video was going viral, her mocking Amelia's linen dress, cut to Cade proclaiming her as his wife. The caption, "How to become a global joke in 37 seconds. Ria Mahajan, once a symbol of modern feminism, was now being disowned by the very community she once inspired." Footage had surfaced, showing she edited clips to make Amelia look poorer than she was. On a standout comment read, "So your feminism only applies to those in designer clothes." The beauty brand she endorsed issued an official statement. "We are terminating our partnership with immediate effect." Ethan Caldwell, who threw an olive at Amelia, was removed from Neuralcore's strategic investor list. Mia Tanaka released a cold public statement. "Our company does not collaborate with individuals who behave like bullies at weddings." Inside the villa, there was no gloating, no vindication. Amelia didn't celebrate. She didn't mock. She didn't return cruelty with scorn. She simply sat beside Cade, sipping a quiet glass of wine, her eyes following the floating lanterns being released into the night sky, each one carrying a real wish, a silent prayer, and a lesson deeply learned by those who had once failed to see. On social media, the hashtags #AmeliaGrayRowan and #TheRealBride surged like a wave. News outlets reported the woman ejected from a billionaire's wedding for dressing simply was the bride. From ridicule to reverence, how one woman taught the world about dignity. But Amelia didn't need to read the headlines. She hadn't done this to be seen. She had done it to see, to know if love, real love, could stand strong in a world that often bowed to illusions. Cade leaned over and whispered in her ear. They're calling you an icon. She smiled softly. I don't want to be an icon. I just want to be the kind of person who doesn't bow, even when the whole world turns away. The night sky above Lake Garda looked painted by the hand of heaven. Each breeze carried echoes of vows, awakenings, and unspoken gratitude. Via Doria glowed under warm lights, but the brightest glow still came from her. Amelia Gray Rowan, once thrown out of a wedding, live-streamed and shamed. Her invitation doubted, her presence mocked. Now, she simply sat beside the man who had always seen her quietly, peacefully, without a need to prove a single thing. The reception continued not as a showcase of wealth, but as a celebration of conscience. No one dared take her photo. No one tried to go live again. Not because they were told not to, but because they were afraid to tarnish the sacredness now so vividly alive. Amelia didn't give a speech. She didn't accept flowers. She didn't thank the crowd. Instead, she took Cade's hand and walked slowly through the garden of lanterns, each step rewriting what success meant. In the minds of those watching, a small girl, the daughter of a guest, ran up to her and tugged on her dress. Miss, I saw you on the internet. Are you a real princess? The girl asked, eyes wide. Amelia knelt down, touched her forehead, and smiled gently. No, I'm just someone who knows who she is and doesn't let anyone else decide that for her. In the distance, Mia Tanaka received a call from an international media house. They wanted to produce a documentary titled The Real Bride, a global story of reversal, injustice, and courage. Mia glanced at Amelia, resting quietly against Cade's shoulder, and shook her head. She doesn't need the spotlight. She is the light. Cade leaned close to his wife. You know, they'll remember this wedding for a long time. Amelia looked at him, her voice soft as night wind. Not for the dress, not for the flowers, not for the guest list, but because we didn't bow, and she was right. For the first time, a billionaire's wedding wouldn't be remembered for designer gowns or sponsorship deals. It would be remembered for a woman who was mocked, who was dragged, who was live-streamed like a spectacle, but still stood tall, still remained silent, still remained kind. And it was her quiet strength that awakened something long asleep in the hearts of many. The story closed as the couple stood at the lake's edge, floating lanterns rising around them like stars. No press releases. No headlines are needed. Just wind and the glow of two souls that had never needed a stage to shine. Because some people don't need a spotlight to be seen. They are the light.